Oh, hello. Mr. Lee here. All right, this exercise is on positive and negative intervals. Okay, so let's define that first. When it says positive and negative, it's referring to the function values, the y values. Okay, so does your function have positive y values or does your function have negative y values? Now, the confusing part might be that you're focusing on the y values in terms of these expressions, positive and negative, but the intervals that you're reading are the x values. So for example, right, this graph asks us, select the interval where g is negative. Okay, so g is just the name of the function. Where is this function negative? In other words, where are the y values negative? But look at the answer choices. Your answer choices are reading intervals of left and right, your x values. Okay, so even though you're looking for positive and negative y values, you read them for the intervals that are described in terms of its x values. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean. We're asked to find where your function g is negative. Okay, so I'm going to go through this whole graph here and just kind of verbally say it. If I start from the very left here, these are all negative y values. If you just focus on the y value, I have a negative y value all the way into here. Now your y value is 0, and then all your y values are now positive. Okay? So basically, if I start from now your intervals, from this leftmost point, we can say it's either -4, or if you're assuming it goes on forever, it's negative infinity, right? From an x value between -4 all the way to an x value of 3, you have this portion of the graph with negative y values. So from -4 to a positive 3 in its x values, you have negative y values. Okay? Pause and rewind if you need to take that piece a little bit slower. Once I reach this x-intercept, then it crosses the x-axis and goes to positive y values. So from x values of 3 all the way to 5, or you can say 3 all the way to infinity, right? If you keep going to the right, from x values of 3 all the way to 5, then I have positive y values. Okay? So that's the main distinction here. Students get them confused all the time. Okay? It's common error. So make sure you make that distinction. Okay? So negative y values, we're going to read which of these x value intervals that actually happens at. Okay, so this first one says between 2 and 3. So I'm going to go to the x values of 2 and 3. I'm only focusing on this portion of the graph. And it looks like my y values of the graph are negative. So I'm going to automatically choose that. That's my answer. Okay, it just says choose one answer. Let's just make sure the other ones are wrong. Okay, this is an interval between 3 and 4. I'm going to look at this portion of the graph, and lo and behold, I have positive y values, which I don't want, right? I'm asked to choose the negative. Between x values of 4 and 5, it's going to be over here, right? And again, I'm above the x-axis, your y values are positive, right? So this was the only interval in the multiple choice where y values were negative, okay? All right, see a couple more here. Select the interval where g of x is greater than 0. So this is just fancy language for select the interval where y is greater than 0. In other words, where is y positive? We're looking for positive intervals. Okay, this says choose one answer. So let's just read each of these x value intervals. So between -2 and -1, that's going to be this section right here. Between -2 and -1 in its x values, I have negative y values, which I don't want because I want where y is positive, where y is greater than 0. So I'm not going to click that. Okay. Between -1 and 0 is going to be this portion. Between -1 and 0, I'm still below the x-axis. Those are negative y values. I don't want that either. So that means C has to be the answer, but let's just make sure we understand. So between 0 and 1 now, my graph is above the x-axis. I have positive y values when I have an x interval between 0 and 1. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, select the interval where g of x is less than 0. Paraphrase, right? You're interpreting that as intervals where y is less than 0. In other words, negative y values. Okay? So let's look at each interval again. X value between 0 and 1. That's going to be right here. X values between 0 and 1. I have positive y values. So I don't want to click that because I'm looking for negative y values, right? Y values less than 0 means negative. Between 2 and 3, x values of 2 and 3, bingo, right? Between x values of 2 and 3, my y values are definitely negative. They're below the x-axis. That's what I want. Let's just double check. Between 4 and 5 is going to be this portion on the very right. I have positive y values, so this is our only option.